Yeah, hello room or hello everyone. I am back in my room and I'm feeling a lot more comfortable. I've only been here a couple of minutes, but I guess I had a bit of an anxiety attack, which I tried to suppress, which is my usual form, and it was in regards to filming. I had these notions that I'd go down and videotape some of the Khmer food and the delicacies that um, in most Western countries are just thrown out and used as fertilizer. Yet here in Asia they eat them. And also began to take some video footage initially of a pagoda and the different sections of uh, life here in Cambodia, and the poor side and then the affluent side. Um, but I felt guilty, especially about the beggars that were out the front of the pagoda. For me, um, I felt somewhat of an affinity to them over the last couple of days, in the sense, that I didn't come from a very privileged background either. And yet, I had the resources available to me to come to understand myself and my past and things along those lines whilst being supported. Whereas these individuals, with no arm or no leg or an intellectual disability or a mental illness or even just age, have to beg for a living. And, you know, there is some controversy in regards to it being a profession here in Cambodia, that's regulated by, so-called sharks and things along those lines. But, that's just, it may be real, and that's capitalism in its finest form. But, these individuals, it doesn't matter the makeup of their personality and their motivation for engaging in that sort of activity, but it's the only option available to them. And some of the kids that have come up and asked me for money, I can remember, being given money to go to the town show or carnival, where they had rides and things like that available to them. And I didn't have to beg to do it. They're just begging, so they can get an ice cream or even a sweet drink, a sugarcane drink, because they don't have the funds available to them at any other time of the year. So yeah, it was difficult to say no to some, especially if they already had something in their hands. Um, there was mothers as well with small babies, and you know, here I was. I may be being a little bit too hard on myself at present, but the rich Westerner handing out 2,000 real or 50 cents. When generally they're accustomed to a, a 12 cent donation, 500 real. That's a good score for them. You can buy a feed of rice for 500 real. So that makes some money for themselves, and then possibly those that you know oversee it, if it's real. And in some cases, it's more than likely real. On one particular occasion, I saw a lady, who appeared to be middle class, who had taken her autistic son down to uh, a certain tourist attraction, and she'd removed his pants, so he was naked from the waist down, to get sympathy. Um, so these are the measures that people will go to, seeking that infamous thing called money. So my motive for doing so was looking for a little bit of attention and love and affection, which is quite natural, and I can acknowledge that today. In my own mind, I have an affinity to being a noble, heroic sort of character. But, the truth of the matter was, I didn't have any sort of boundaries at all. And as you can see by the video I'm posting now on my phone, sometimes I get overwhelmed with guilt, which is, for me, perfection guilt. If we can't live on paradise on earth, then, what's the point, so to speak? I get full of despair and have an anxiety attack, because I feel so helpless and hopeless. I thought that, and when I'm deluded, I think everything coincides, to life being some sort of paradise. And reality is, there's an artist, I believe, that resides within us all, and we get to use language to describe and fulfill that. I may not be able to draw you a picture or paint you, a masterpiece or anything along those lines, but reality is I'm still learning the language, that's required, I believe, for me to comprehend some of the more adverse experiences I have, and also in regards to the symptoms that manifest, in regards to my psychotic mental illness. I'm giving up on calling it schizophrenia for the time being, because I get paranoid, self-conscious, and things like those, and it just flares from time to time. Most regular people who can emotionally regulate, there's a gradient that they course through in regards to that, whereas I just seem to flare. But I've been speaking for nearly 10 minutes, and it's all about me again. I'm a little fatigued. 3 days I've been down to the show, or to the festival, and all I've done basically is, witnessed a boat race, given some money to the poor, so that they can join in the festivities, and yeah, I guess I'm learning to value myself as I am, and like building from that basis, as opposed to trying to transform into an ideal self, that was basically just narcissistic in nature, something constructed by a wounded child. My false self, it was pristine, and yeah, so reality doesn't scare me as much as it once did. But then again, if you look at my reaction in this video that should be uploaded now, yeah, I haven't even watched it myself. So, I think I'm going to sign off now and, watch the videos, and witness for myself, my own reaction. Like I mentioned, I feel okay now that I'm back in the safety and security of my own room. But, sometimes, I don't have a secure network or people in my vicinity whom I trust enough to say, hey, I'm having a bit of an anxiety or I'm feeling guilty about this. I don't really want to do that. And these are the things that I need to speak about instead of trying to suppress them, to keep up this pretense, that I am fully self-sufficient. It's a lie. So I better end it here. Comment if you can relate or if you have any tips or suggestions, and I'll respond. Okay, thank you. Bye.